to Crafternoon, the show where we create, paint, and generally have lots to do with characters, models, miniatures, terrain, and everything else needed for Dungeons & Dragons or any other tabletop role-playing game out there. I'm your host, and a surprisingly nubile porch umbrella, Garrett Robinson, and joining me today is another member of the Natural 20 Proof family, Jesse McMillin, the man behind the whole deal.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's a serious overstatement. Like, I pretty well just, act like I'm doing a whole bunch of story building behind the scenes and really consider myself super important around the edges. These are the folks that are, making it all actually happen. I'm basically just DMing. So my job is to improvise things and make all of their lives a little worse. So,
as you can see, he's annoyingly humble, but we're gonna just knock that right out of him eventually.
Well, just wait till you see the mini I'm about to paint. This is gonna be plenty embarrassing. This will be humbling in its own right.
So Jesse just to clarify, is going to be the dungeon master of the upcoming campaign on the channel. And today you're painting your first mini?
First mini
ever.
I know. Yeah. I mean, okay, so you are literally playing in my first ever campaign.
Iron Belly?
Yeah. At least that I've run. I've been in a little bit of D&D here and there, but 5th edition actually worked well for me in terms of the pacing and the feel of the game. So
wow.
First game was actually, you were in the first game I was in 5th edition, which was with
that game.
Mm-hmm.
The game that we
that game.
That game.
Yep. No, that game, which was very educational. Very educational.
That's a word.
Learned a lot.
That's
But basically, it was, I really enjoyed the way that 5th edition actually flowed with incorporating things like advantage, disadvantage versus all the little nitty gritty numbers. And it really got out of the way enough of the storytelling that for me, it really clicked. Because that's what I'm I just want combat to be this snip snap kind of thing. So it informs the role play experience and the narrative, as opposed to being all about the number crunching. So this one just worked. So Iron Belly is the second real 5th edition game I've played.
I would never ever have thought that it was your first time DMing ever in a million years. That's crazy. Well, anyway, and then Jesse is the person who grabbed the rest of us and was like, "Hey, do you want to stream this?" And we were like, "Yeah, we do." Ha! And it's been a few months of putting that all together and everything.
Yeah, honestly, a lot more has come together than I could possibly have imagined.
Right.
Which is why I'm sitting here this is all you guys, because the amount of work and effort, this team coming together has been freaking unreal.
It's been pretty cool.
And that's I feel like that's sort of what that applies both in the game and out of the game. You really can't have a good D&D game without the team.
Yeah.
D&D is a team game first and foremost, with the DM is kind of a referee, ostensibly.
Yeah.
So that,
and also part of the team, but just sort of the person who has the most say. You know what I mean? Because you got to work with the DM as opposed to it's not just the players bouncing off of each other. It's kind of everybody working in that web and everything.
And simultaneously, the DM has to be there and ready to contribute and sort of create those guiding plot hooks and all that good stuff that I think really give the game its structure and make the players have to grow as well as their characters. Because if you're not throwing some serious curveballs at them about giving them some nice moral questions to deal with and some uncomfortable... Wait, okay, so maybe I struck a chord.
And sometimes it goes well, and sometimes you turn Super Saiyan, and you're not sure how you feel about it.
Yeah, that's a little relevant right now. I don't know if you talk at all about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing we can talk about is Iron Belly, because, whoever I have on here, I don't want to hear about any other characters.
Well, that's fair. Yeah.
Although I'm going to totally be plugging you for information today about what's going to be happening.
That's actually, I was kind of hoping to talk a little about that, if possible, just because... Boy, am I excited for Anor! Oh, man!
It's so good.
It's so
good. Everybody on stream has already met my character, Helri, and I can't wait to play her. I can't wait to play her. Oh my god.
Oh, it's gonna be so good. Oh man, I'm so excited for Helri to meet the Session Zero people. I have planned. It's gonna be Alex and Bridget. Bridget's been on before.
Bridget's been on. Alex has not.
Okay, cool. Well, you'll all get to meet him coming up here. Delightful chap.
Yeah.
But he and Bridget are going to be in your session 0. It's going to be interesting.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get started, and then
Okay.
we can talk while we're working. Let's show them Salamir real quick.
All right, so this is like seriously. I have had 2 Salamirs.
Mm-hmm.
This one, unfortunately, is a fallen warrior,
Yeah.
which is relevant to him as a character. But he lost his whip hand in a terrible battle with the undead.
Missing the hand. Not his most effective moment.
Yep. So I'm starting basically from scratch with this guy. I haven't even trimmed him yet because he was looking real. The de-whipped Salamir was looking good until I literally went and picked him up this morning, or just before coming over here. So I'm going with backup Salamir. So we're gonna X-Acto knife this bad boy and get him painted.
This will be interesting to a lot of people out there. When you 3D print a miniature, as far as I know, all of our minis are on Hero Forge and then printed, and then we order them or have Roberto print them. But it's all through Hero Forge. When you order through a site like Hero Forge,
I might have done this one for this one. Something Anvil, I believe, for this one. But
oh, really?
Yeah.
The one that Bridget has?
No, this was an old STL actually. It wasn't from Hero Forge. It was from another one, something Anvil. I'll have to double check. Yeah.
Well,
but they did a good job. So.
But generally, when you get a 3D file and you have it printed, you have all of this sort of like these plastic sprues on the side that then sort of need to be trimmed off. So that's the first thing Jesse's going to be taking care of today. And then we will get into the painting aspect, and I will try to pass on what wisdom is at my disposal.
Sounds good. We'll see how little of it I can absorb. All right.
In the meantime, am going to be working on some more terrain. So I have tried very hard to stick to a pledge with myself of I need to finish painting all of the stuff that I've made before I'm allowed to make like a bunch more stuff. So that's what I'm going to be working on today. You saw a bunch of the walls that I was working on last week. I have more of those.
They are so sick.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna lie. I'm probably gonna see about borrowing some of these for the Anor stream.
I'm going to be making a whole new set.
Really?
And you're going to be getting.
And I'm gonna be. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're going to get the improved ones because one thing we realized, because we also play here on Thursdays in a campaign that I run, is that we want...
Which is sick, by the way.
Yeah, I like that campaign a lot.
It's very cool.
But Nolan suggested half-high walls. So that you have greater visibility over the table, but you know where the walls are.
I think that's a good idea. That saves on time and saves on time, materials, and is
craft.
Honestly more play efficient.
And at first I was like, okay, but like, how will you tell? And then I realized that if it's half high and it's like goes up to here, what if you want to have a window? Well, you just have a window that embeds into the bottom, and so it'll sort of embed in here, and then it'll stick up like that.
Sure.
Which actually makes things like doors and windows more visible to the players. So
Right.
if you're playing and you're looking, you are more aware of where the doors and windows are, which is of course important when you're trying to figure out how to escape a pair of succubi or 12 quick
About
links.
that.
I mean, you know.
Yeah, all that good stuff. Or trying to fly out a window and get sniped by apparently firearm mushrooms.
But nothing happened.
You just said I coughed horribly.
Yeah.
And you asked me how much constitution I had left.
No. I asked what your constitution score was. It was just important.
Yeah, that's like the most ominous thing you can ask a player. So what's your constitution score?
I mean,
Not your modifier, not roll constitution. What's your score?
You
Like, what does that mean?
you don't know that.
And that's exactly why it's terrifying. Are we not most afraid of the unknown, Garrett?
We are.
Especially when that unknown is based on your healthiness attribute.
Well, anyway, we're going to kick on some music, and then we are going to get to work her.
All right.
Skadoosh. Oh, so today I'm finishing magnetizing all of my stuff. Oh, you probably need a knife or
I could
clippers.
get a little clipper. Oh, that'll
X-Acto
work.
knife, and then I can find clippers somewhere. I got these little guys.
Oh, this will work great.
Okay, these are not the Citadel clippers are actually like the gold standard, but those might
really?
help on some. Yeah, they just are like so perfect for getting into the tiniest little clips.
These things, these little buddies.
Well, Citadel.
These guys are a little too fat for that purpose.
Right,
This
Citadel.
is more what I want for.
Citadel are the Games Workshop guys.
Right.
the ones who make Warhammer and everything like that, and they make
Right.
clippers like this that are just so perfect. And I lost my pair years ago.
Okay.
Where's my drill bit? Oh, here we go. Here. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Okay.
I gotta say, I'm really liking Salamir as a character.
Mm-hmm.
He's weird to play though. You know, like Garrett was.
He's weird to play with.
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
I mean, okay, so he's a Shadar-kai, right? So my whole thought process there is that, you know, canonically they live in the Shadowfell, which is a very depressing place. And so the idea of them is that they're actually a very kind of like hyper race of people to an extent, while simultaneously being very emotionally distant, because basically it takes a lot for them to actually feel anything. So I was trying to play him like this, like all the little like social nuances of normal society are unimportant, really.
Yeah.
Because they're just kind of trivial compared to the abject void of desperation that he's used to. And so he's like, why are you wasting all this time on, like, you know, petty bullshit when you could really be getting out there and living life? You live in, like, the prime material, which is way more fun than where I came from.
Mm-hmm.
So what the heck are you doing moping around?
Why are you all complaining? This is great.
Exactly. But then you brought up wondering whether he was based on whether he was on the spectrum, and
Yeah.
I hadn't actually considered that when I was designing the character. And I ain't gonna lie, it gave me a little bit of it gave me a little pause, because it kind of left me wondering, like, is this like me parodying people who are on the spectrum? Because that's not what I intended to do at all with this character. But apparently it came across that way.
I don't think it ever came across as a parody at all. I don't think that Salamir is, I mean, you know, and obviously some things are more for other people to say, but I think that it's just an interpretation, and it's something that I think you can do, especially if you're, how do you put it? If you're experiencing it, if it's like, okay, so like this is something that that people do when they, like, you know, watch a favorite TV show or something like that, and they themselves, you know, have a certain life experience, and they're like, oh my god, this character totally reads that way. And it's like, I don't think that it's necessarily vital to say 100% definitively for a character like that whether they are or aren't, but it's like, it's an interesting interpretation way of viewing it.
Right.
In addition to, you know, definitely having characters who are 100% explicitly intended to be that way and are that way.
Which is, I mean, so in your writing, you like to incorporate a lot of people with different kind of backgrounds and identities and whatnot.
Oh, yes.
Have you ever tried to do that? Like, take somebody who is kind of on the spectrum or dealing with some situation like that and try and realize them in one of your stories? Because I admit I have not gotten all the way up to date on your writing yet.
Oh, that's
but I
all
do
right.
need to.
I haven't even finished reading the Anor briefing, so, like, that's, you know, that's all right.
Well, you know, the Anor briefing, it's like a wiki page. It's about as interesting as Wikipedia, so, you know, I understand.
But no, so that one in particular I have not yet. I generally like to go when I'm tackling a new character, a new you know, person or identity that I want to represent. I spend a lot of time beforehand, you know, speaking with people from the community and researching and everything to do the best possible job that I can.
Absolutely.
But I have had several readers go like, "Oh, hey, this character definitely on the spectrum," and I'm like, "Really? Well, I will take your word for that." Like, you know, and again, it's that sort of thing where, like, just because they weren't intended to be that way, doesn't mean they aren't.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, Okay, so I mean that does raise an interesting question too. You know, it's kind of like how when folks are trying to make the distinction about, you know, like sexual identity, you know, like art, like, you know, you're straight, you're gay, whomever, trying to like box things up neatly, when really, like, I don't think most people fall on an extreme of that spectrum.
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, the spectrum is the norm, and the kind of extremes of that spectrum, the like very clinical definitions of things, are much more the exception.
Right.
So in that regard, I'm curious how much of that, and of course neither of us are really qualified to speak to this, but is true for, you know, more of the spectrum as we know it for folks who are differently abled and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is probably that everybody is at least on some level of that spectrum and has their own quirks and idiosyncrasies that make them not quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
Because who the heck is?
Yeah. Yeah, I know for me personally, I've talked about life experiences in my community and in my Discord server and with my readers and the people who watch my YouTube videos, and basically had people indicate to me that I might possibly have either you know, some traits on the spectrum, or from ADHD or something like that. And it's like, it's one of those things where I'm like, it doesn't feel like something that it doesn't feel to me like a problem that I need to solve, because that's a very common thing that I see on the people that I follow online, where they talk about, like, they knew something was, like, you know, going on with them, or there was some factor in their life, and when they got a diagnosis, or when, you know, like, they realized this thing about themselves and and could start, like, addressing it, that was like a big relief for them.
Right.
And I don't feel like I'm in that first stage. But it is probably a thing where there are a lot more people with elements of that experience than we think there are offhand. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's probably, I mean, nobody's brain is wired exactly the same.
Yes, exactly.
And so everybody's a bit different, but I guess feeling like you have that sort of acknowledgement that, yes, like, you do have a different brain, and that's not wrong, but it sometimes does need different kinds of, needs different treatment, needs different behavior, and needs different just work.
Exactly. Like, even just a different way of thinking about it, so you know, like, oh, why do I not relate with some people on this thing? It's like, oh, well, the answer's actually, you know, relatively simple, and that can just be comforting.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not something that needs to be, you know, you're not wrong for being that way. It's just, this is what it is, and here's, you know, you can now start working on not fixing it, but living with it.
Yeah.
You know, what is the work of actually becoming able to live with yourself?
Right.
Because boy, oh boy, is that a question we all get to work on.
Yeah. And like, my motto for a long time has been, like, the highest human virtue is self-awareness.
Really?
And
okay.
that's the thing. Like, the better you know yourself and the way you work,
right,
the more you can control yourself and your life, and use yourself to make the lives of yourselves and others better, which is, you know, what most people would call virtuous. But you can't achieve any of that if you don't understand yourself first.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I can say definitively that this is the most serious and philosophical the conversation on Crafternoon has ever been, and we got there instantly. We're not even at the 20-minute mark, and already here we are.
I don't mess around. So you see why my campaigns get real screwed up real fast.
I mean, I don't know about screwed up. I definitely feel like they get very involved, and I like that.
Well, you know, it's kind of like, I like when characters have to confront things about themselves. And that's one of my first questions when I'm trying to figure out, what is something about this character that I can lean into to make their player more attached to them. And that is really trying to take a look at what are their weaknesses as a character. What are the things they themselves are uncertain about or
maybe
terrified.
would rather not face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then throw it right at them as fast as possible.
Yeah.
You know, I love your character Peldon.
I love her too.
Is a lot of fun. Is a lot of fun to riff off of because she does have a very definitive kind of arc to her, frankly a self-righteous streak.
Yeah.
And a very obstinate and impulsive streak. And that's something that is, you know, for lack of a better word, I guess, very easy to to leverage, I suppose. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Peldon is for me. Are we all trimmed up?
We are all trimmed up.
Ooh, sweet.
Got him. Didn't break him this time.
Peldon for me is actually very aspirational because she has spent most of her life studying, learning, and accepting herself, including accepting the parts of herself that she knows are not ideal, but that it would be more destructive for her to try to get rid of that impulsiveness. Like, if she tried to rid herself of that, then she'd just be nothing. There would be like none of the stuff that she sees as good and admirable would be there. And so like that sort of like self-understanding and being like, oh yeah, this is one of my things. Okay, I'm going to deal with this being one of my things.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of what makes the player connect with their character too, is when their character is forced to confront their own inadequacies. Because what do any of us do on a pretty daily basis but confront those things about us that are coming up short, or at least we're worried are coming up short about?
Exactly.
All right, he's ready to rumble. Oh, BT Dubs, if we're looking a little reflective right now.
Oh, it
is
hot.
So hot.
You get to experience the sauna today.
Yeah.
Yay.
I am going to be detoxed by the end of this painting session.
That is the number one thing that we always talk about on the show. And I can't wait until we're filming this in autumn and winter and everything. And it's just cold. And it's just, oh boy.
Turns out heaters don't make nearly as much noise as air conditioners.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so put up with it for right now. At least your camera can't carry smells. That's the important thing. Oh no.
That's another conversation, but we're not going to have that
Oh,
one
that's
right.
right.
Yeah.
Wait, if you all riffed on me, I hear you've been riffing on me in Crafternoon about that.
No, we haven't talked about that on Crafternoon, but we'll get to that probably in the second half of the show. We don't want to lose the audience too quickly.
Oh boy. Yeah, no, I'm not even sure I want to get into that because I admit that I am such an outlier in that regard. And you're all allowed to like what you like, and I'm allowed to disagree with you.
Okay, so the first piece of advice that I generally give people when they're painting a miniature is I find it easiest to paint from the inside out. So if you're painting a miniature and you paint, let's say, their skin, which is usually the first thing I have people start on, right? So you paint their skin. As your brush is approaching the skin, it's going to like pass by collars and shoulders and everything like that. And like, so you might spill on those things, but that's okay because as you work outwards,
You can cover those up.
Right. You can cover, as opposed to if you paint all of the rest and then you try to go in on the skin, you're going to be getting the skin color all over the rest of the miniature.
Right.
So you probably want to start with the skin.
Okay.
And I recommend picking like a sort of color that you want like to be the darkest color, the darker shade, the color that's going to be in all the recesses and the stuff like that.
Right.
So what do you think you are trying to go for that way?
Well, he is kind of like a bone colored a little bit. Like I described his skin as being like ashy bone.
Okay.
Which might mean gray. Actually,
Okay.
is the base, but I mean, he's more predominantly like pale.
Do you want like this sort of a base color or something more akin to like this or like a lighter version of this?
That's a little too pink, I think.
Yeah. I thought so.
Yeah, he's very like
That's
pale,
also very pink.
almost like potentially this.
Oh, okay. So like colorless bone.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So then
From the Pale Wardens, and he's undead. So.
Yeah. This might be a good place to start then.
Okay.
And so if you just kind of cover his skin with all that, generally what I'll try to do is I'll cover the skin with the darker color, and then I'll paint the whole thing again with like sort of what I want the baseline color to be.
Right.
And I'll paint most of it, and I'll just leave like a line under the chin, or like, you know, in between the lips, depending on
for
the
like
detail
shading
of the
there.
model. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then highlight up from that, and then you sort of wash it back down. But for now, why don't you start with the skin being right around there?
Okay. Sounds good. We have a little something to squidge on.
Yeah, so here is your palette. This is a wet palette, which means that you can mix colors on it and they will stay wet longer. So like you don't have to worry about them drying out and having to remix. So you literally just spread the paint right on there, and it'll also help it.
Do you take this top thing off here?
No. Sorry, that is the palette. So the towel is what keeps the parchment paper sort of.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess a little low on this one. Everybody's painting gray.
That doesn't feel like it's in the right spot at all.
There we go. That should be more than enough. Okay. We get one of these little doodlies here.
That's the problem with magnetizing your dungeon tiles.
What's that? Uh-oh.
Come on, it was doing it. It was doing it just a second ago, and it was so funny. Anyway, it was sticking to the ruler.
See, what you need is to get like a magnetic wand, so you can just like.
Oh shit! I pulled the magnet right out. See, that's the problem with magnetizing, is if you don't wait for the glue to set.
Okay, so we're going gray on him. Oh boy, fine motor skills. I'm so good at these. I do punching and kicking. I don't do tiny little movements.
Well, again, this is the right time to make spills. You really don't care what you get on any other areas of the model. You can be very sloppy and loose with the base, with the darker skin color.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Literally, I probably went way overkill on the paint for this. He's only got like one little exposed piece of actual skin. His actual face there. Everything else is pretty well covered up.
Oh, that's all right. Ping. I realized I forgot to ping everybody on the Discord. Bada boom.
Bada boom.
Big bada boom.
Boy, what a great movie.
I know.
Alright. Here we go.
And you know, hasn't been rebooted. Didn't have a billion sequels. It just came, it did its thing, and it was gone.
Right? Thank you. Looking at you, Star Wars. I mean, okay, so like the extended like universe of Star Wars, I did quite enjoy. Like, especially the books. I read quite a few of those when I was younger. But, oh man, I just don't know. Like, the new movies did not hit it for me. It just didn't feel like they were doing anything new.
I felt like The Last Jedi came, like, showed the most potential. And I understood why The Force Awakens was the way it was. It was pretty much a direct response to the prequels. And it was like, hey, we know you got burned by the prequels, and we want to show you that we remember what made Star Wars awesome.
Yeah, but by literally just rehashing A New Hope, like, that was kind of...
Yes.
Like,
that's the right... Like, okay, there could be a better thing to do, but that was not a wrong thing to do, because it was like, hey, we just want to start the new trilogy off by telling you we realize what was wrong. Also, we're gonna literally blow up the Galactic Republic because none of you liked that from the prequels. And then The Last Jedi was like, hey, you know, all of like the legacy stuff and like everybody has to be connected and related to everything else. We're gonna throw all that out the window.
Yeah.
Haha. And then the Rise of Skywalker was like, haha, just kidding. Some angry people got angry at us on Twitter, so we're retconning everything. Spoilers for Rise of Skywalker, by the way.
Well, I do think that might be the weakness of very intense fandoms.
Yeah.
And, you know, don't get me wrong, like, fandoms have created a lot of amazing culture, many of which arguably has superseded the actual source material. Not necessarily saying that for Star Wars, but, like, as a, you know, like, across the, like, Doctor Who, for instance.
Yeah.
Doctor Who, great show in its own right, but the actual, like, Whovian culture is so rich and creative that... really, it made Doctor Who more than Doctor Who ever would have been normally.
100%.
I would say, like, even like Dr. Horrible sing-along blog. Very simple, small movie that made a huge impact because so many people responded to it.
Right.
And I mean, that's kind of the cool part about the times we live in, too, right? Is
yeah.
Like the internet has made fandom culture so possible.
Right.
And, you know, that's honestly really cool. Like, it's amazing to see what people who are passionate about something actually can contribute. But on the other side of the coin, I guess Dragon Ball Z probably is the best example of a arguably something that the fan culture around it actually is probably stronger than the original.
I've never been into DBZ fan culture other than being a fan of DBZA.
Well, that's one of the best examples.
Yeah.
I think DBZA is phenomenal for so many reasons.
If you haven't watched, by the way, if you haven't watched Dragon Ball Z Abridged, I mean, go to YouTube right now. Like,
it's unreal.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and especially like earlier on, if you're just coming into it, like, yeah, you might find it's a little like, you know, well, like the jokes might not be landing just right, but the last season is unbelievable. It honestly, it hits deeper into the characters, makes the characters grow more than they ever did in the actual show.
Correct.
And that's just because there's such a degree of passion behind the project of somebody that actually loves where it came from.
Right. Yeah, it's some good stuff.
Is that good?
All right. Oh, that's that good shit.
There it is.
Speaking of Dragon Ball Z Bridge.
Yeah, you've got a proper Cell voice there, man.
I actually think he's like one of my weakest.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one do you think is your strongest?
When I was watching it a lot more, I could nail Vegeta pretty well, and I was okay at Piccolo. I was right in that range of I forget which one does, but like Vegeta and Piccolo are the same voice actor, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Vegeta and Piccolo. He also voiced a couple of the other ones too. Is it Krillin as well?
Maybe Krillin. I could do an okay Krillin, but like that actor, I could nail pretty much everything he could do. Oh, and I had a good Frieza going there for a while.
Yeah.
I am Lord Frieza, yes.
You filthy monkeys!
I mean, that's his primary line there.
Yeah.
Stop hitting yourself! Stop hitting yourself!
Ah, you're the one hitting me.
Oh, I'm not, though.
You did this to yourself.
Just another great example of the amazing freaking writing in that show.
Ugh,
Honestly, I'm happy that they didn't decide to keep it going into the Blue Saga. I think that, like, Cell Saga is just, like, it ended so good there.
Yeah.
It was so perfect. It tied everybody together, made this, it was like heart-wrenching, but in an uplifting way, and it just sort of, like, left you wanting more, and that's important. So,
You get his skin?
I think so.
Hey, look at that. He's what, wearing gloves, I suppose? Mm-hmm. Okay, dokes. Let's get a close-up in here. We got a face there. All right, so yeah, now, like I said, I would go for painting over it again in that main skin color you want, which would be that guy right there.
Okay.
And then just leave sort of like the edges outlined, you know, and any recesses on the face, maybe some space around the nose and whatnot. But yeah.
Okay. I'm actually going to leave a little of the other paint on the brush just to see if maybe I can, like, accent the color a little bit with it.
Nice.
I don't know if that'll do anything, but we'll find out. We're here to experiment.
I also have a very special place in my heart for Raccoon.
Oh my goodness, Raccoon.
God, I'm so fucking
The
excited.
name's Raccoon, and it rhymes with doom. And you're gonna be hurting. All too soon!
There might be an homage or two upcoming for people who watch the channel.
Oh boy.
Just saying.
Just saying.
I didn't mean to, but it's funny anyway.
Yeah. All right. So that's a lot more close to kind of like the skin tone we'd expect to see from him. Oh
Nice.
boy. Okay.
Boy, these corner pieces are interesting to magnetize.
Okay.
Literally ordered a box of 300 new magnets this week.
Oh, jeez. I feel like the texture on his skin isn't quite right.
Well, we'll get there. There's more to do.
Okay, if you say so. All right. Smooth that out. Smoothing it. I can smooth it. Oh god. Okay.
Ba-ba-ba. Ba-ba-ba. Yeah. Good.
Woo! Okay.
All done there?
I think so.
Okay. Now we're going to take some straight up white.
Straight up white.
And
Okay.
what we're going to do is, and there's not too much area to work with, so I suggest only going for a couple of rounds of this. But you literally just on the palette, grab this and sort of mix in like the next shade up.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of paint that just on like the cheekbones and like the forehead and down the nose and everything. To really, you want to hit everything in sort of this area, and possibly the chin to sort of creates a sort of like triangular effect like that that makes the face pop and be a more appealing shape for the eye to catch.
Okay. Okay.
And just the tiniest little boop.
Basically just Salamir Rouge,
Yeah, exactly.
which is just white.
Yippers.
Okay, there we go. I think I got that. Looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, nice. Nice.
Got him, boys. All right.
And then I would do maybe another layer of that, literally just the tip of the nose. Another shade lighter. So mix more white in with what you got on the palette, and then tip of the nose, maybe the cheekbones.
Okay.
How do we want to do these?
How do you want to do those?
How do you want to do this? Howdy doody do this.
Give me a kill cam.
That's right.
Maybe the cheekbones. I think just right the outro right there. Nice. There we go.
So, Anor.
Anor. Yeah. Yeah,
I-
so having not really read the lore page yet, do you have any specific questions about it?
No, I want you to dish on everything.
You just want to go. You just want me to recite the whole thing.
That's why I didn't read the lore page. I was like, no, I want to hear it all straight from the horse's
Wow.
mouth.
Wow. Well, that's demanding. Okay. Yeah. So Anor, largely based on kind of Celtic Northern European mythology. A lot of Irish lore in there. Trying to work in a little bit of Welsh lore as well. You know, I that's my heritage. So that's where like a lot of my ancestry comes from, and I never really spent as much time on like Gaelic and Celtic mythology as I feel like I should have, as I did on Greek and Norse lore and whatnot.
Yeah.
And really, that's disappointing to me because I obviously love history, and that's actually the history of my ancestors. And
Right.
so I wanted this to be kind of not only an opportunity to learn more about that history, but also to help to. And Salamir's hair is white, so I'm just gonna start going at it with white here.
Oh, now before we do that, I think that we should give the skin a wash to accentuate the recesses again.
Okay.
So the way we do that, I've got. Oh, can you grab that black wash right there? Black wash.
Okay.
So this is there's two very quick and easy techniques for painting. Hey, we got an Angus. What's up, man?
Hey.
He wants to see the Whippy boy.
So that Whippy boy.
We'll see him in just one sec.
Okay, I have to black wash him.
So the two things are dry brushing and washing.
Right.
Dry brushing, are you familiar with either of those in non-miniature terms?
Yeah, so like dry brushing, you get some paint and you get your paint and you wipe as much paint off as you can, and then basically you just kind of scrape what remains of the paint across the surface. That gives you texture without like changing the color fully.
Right.
That's
So
good
that's
for
like
that kind of
textured stuff. Mm-hmm. So for the face, not so applicable, but when it comes to the hair, probably your best bet is actually going to be painting it as an undercoat of, let's say, probably going 50-50 in between these two, mixing these half and half.
Maybe like both of these that I've got already in there already.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. And painting the hair that way, and then dry brushing white straight on that. So it'll look like it sort of blends into his skin, but it'll be a little lighter because you started with a lighter color. Mm-hmm. But it also won't go as extreme because you're dry brushing instead of just painting it on. Mm-hmm. But first we will black wash his skin. And this literally... Oh, this fucking bottle. Ugh. There we go.
Yoink.
Yoink. So that literally goes right out of the jar and it's just straight onto the face. Apply it thinly at first, but also realize that it is going to. Oh, you can just sort of wash the brush off in here, and then do the wash, and then wash it again, or do the new paint with it.
Do the thing.
Do the thing.
Okay.
So we go thinly at first, and then apply a little more, and realize that it will not look nearly as extreme when it dries out as it does when you first put it on.
That makes sense. Oh yeah, I get you. It's like a
Right?
tea. You're like basically tea staining him.
Exactly, and it sinks into all the cracks and crevices. So you just paint it over the whole thing, and it'll dull out the highlights a little bit, but mostly it's just going to sink into the eyes and the lips and the space under the nose.
Definitely making the parts that are like hit with the white, like the lighter colors, really pop.
Yes, exactly. So those two things are like the secret weapons in the arsenal: dry brushing and washing.
Yeah,
All right.
that's like pretty exact.
And now we can show this to
Getting there. Yeah, it's
Strem.
very muchly incomplete at this point.
Oh yeah, that's the face. Yeah, see how that's already giving him, like, you can see his eyes even from like a distance.
Mm-hmm. Got that 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah. I can see much further than 1,000 yards. I can't do a Salamir, really.
It is hard to
Yes.
do a Salamir. Yeah, no, that is one of the weirdest ones to actually like act out too, because it's very, the whole point is to be almost amelodic as well as like monotone. So he has to speak. He has to speak in ways which are not very intuitive.
Yep. And it's amazing. Boy,
yeah, it's
I mean, I didn't even foresee how good it was going to be pairing you and Ostara up for your game 0. Like, holy shit. Of all the decisions I've made as a dungeon master, that one,
You're feeling good about that?
I feel real good about that one.
I feel good.
Because, like, teaming up Bridget and Nolan's characters, that's just natural. That's
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
Especially with their character stories and everything like that. That just made sense. And so it came down to you and Crystal and Roberto and Harry. Mm-hmm. And oh boy, I like the pairings and how they turned out.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, it's pretty great. I am loving it. Well, I will say though that like the thing that really got me was the fact that Nolan's character was in the same freaking game. He just blind picked basically the absolute perfect character to be like a plot moment there. So I felt really bad in that one, but literally, like when I found out, oh crap, he's an undead, and I am basically, my entire character motivation is to kill undead. Like that's, And I did not pick this. I did not make this character with the knowledge that we were gonna have a player playing an undead.
Nope.
It was literally just kind of a. Well, I actually like kind of based him a little bit off of Cat Call.
Okay.
If you remember him.
How could I forget?
I love Cat Call. Cat Call was one of my favorite characters. So for those who need context, Cat Call is a Kenku. He is the first character I played in 5th edition. He is a bird bard bartender. And being a Kenku, he can't speak in his own words. He has to mimic everything else. And, you know, there's a couple different schools of thought on how you do that. Like, there's the bumblebee approach, where basically he just kind of, like, talks, but he, flavor-wise, just talks in everybody else's voice and, like, clips phrases together. But I didn't want to do that, because I also really wanted to lean into the fact that he can duplicate and mimic anything.
Right.
And so that's like a pretty powerful perk. So my thing was he has to actually speak in complete phrases that he steals from other people.
Yeah.
So I had a whole notebook of different phrases that other people in the game had said. And anytime I wanted to communicate, I had to look through this notebook and find an actual phrase that had been said at some point earlier in the game and repeat that. It was amazing. I had so much fun with that, and I got to really like sort of highlight other players' good moments too, because that way I like basically come through and bust out a good line they'd had before, and they get to have this moment of like, he remembered one of mine. I was noticed.
That Kenku remembered me. That's amazing.
But I loved that character, and he was a warlock, a bard warlock, and I really enjoyed that direction. So I decided. And he kind of a screwed up character and a follower of the Raven Queen. And so I decided to do another follower of the Raven Queen character. But I wanted to dip into hexblade, just because I'm an edgelord at heart, apparently.
Well, I mean, I'm a hexblade. And I'm the furthest thing from an edgelord.
Well, fair enough. Well, you've got a slightly reskinned hexblade, though.
That's true.
Yeah, but we're not gonna talk about that too much because.
Well, no. Now it's pretty much out in the open. Now after the last conversations where I'd like talked to my parents, and then like everybody was there for that. So now I'm gonna go back to just the default warlock spell names and everything like that.
Okay.
Which should make your life a lot easier.
It really do. Oh yeah, no joke. I have pretty well decided that the whole reskinning spells and naming them different things is just gonna be kind of off limits. Because that was a great idea on paper until it was an execution. I'm sitting here keeping track of an initiative sheet, all these monster hit points, all these different monster abilities, all my characters' abilities, all my players' actions, and then somebody busts out a spell. Oh, I cast Sacred Flame, and I'm like, cool. They're gonna roll a dexterity saving throw. Oh no, I roll an attack. Right. Shoot. Right. Just because my life isn't hard enough yet.
I mean, it's got to be easier though when I'm using new names for spells that don't exist.
I mean,
as opposed to spells that do exist.
Are only slightly, especially because I have to then sit there and be like, all right, wait, right, deciphering that one, right, then they have to make this kind of saving throw, okay, and then the shield's got that, wait, I mean, the Arathune's whatever.
Protection.
Yeah.
Arathune's protection. Exactly,
which, don't get me wrong, I love the flavor of it. It's definitely not me knocking the concept, it's just me, realizing the implementation is a lot more work than I had expected it would be.
Yeah, definitely.
So I do want him to have a very light, his hair to be much lighter than his skin, right? Okay. So right now it's kind of the same, almost same color.
Yeah. So you want to go in on that as the skin wash is dried out. That's good. So now you want to go in on the hair with just pure white. Mm-hmm. And you want to so there's two options. You could dry brush it, or you could paint on the highlights. That requires a lot more fine motor control.
Paint on the highlights?
Yeah. So you could literally just paint every raised area of the hair. And actually, I can...
I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to try it.
Okay, so let me grab you a mini so you can sort of get an idea.
No, I think I get it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go for it. We're just gonna see what happens.
Okay. I'm going to show the stream sort of the effect I'm talking about. So this is not dry brushed. This is actually painted on hair. So I painted the whole thing gray, and then I painted the highlights on. And this sort of, again, from a table view, sort of makes it look like that. And gives that hair impression.
Yeah, looks sick.
We've got a viewer flirting with me. Don't tell my wife.
Uh-oh.
It's my wife.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, that's fair. I was expecting some juicy gossip suddenly.
No.
This is going to be great.
Although, that has happened. There have been people who were like, hey, da-da-da, and I'm like, nope.
No.
Nope. Sorry, let's not do that thing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Oh, so Anor is definitely set in kind of like heavily inspired by Gaelic, Celtic, and Irish mythology there. And so some very Arthurian kind of elements here and there, mixed in with some steampunk elements as well. And just a heavy dose of a little bit more kind of arcane kind of stuff that I just enjoy playing with. So, the whole concept of the world is, and I did take a little Norse mythology inspiration for this one, the idea of elemental realms colliding. So there are 4 different elemental planes, of course. There's fire, water, earth, and air. And those planes...
Long ago, the 4 planes lived together in harmony.
No, they didn't. They never did. In fact, they have constantly been at war since the beginning of time. And the warriors of this ongoing battle are these creatures known as the Fomorians.
Oh, sure.
The Fomorians are part of Irish mythology. They're the age-old enemy of the Tuatha De Danann, which are the sort of... they're the gods of this realm. They're the gods of Irish mythology. It translates to the people of Danu. And they fought a war a long, long time ago to drive the Fomorians out of this world. Basically, wherever the 4 planes collide and are evenly matched, they sort of mix and blend and create something known as a kala, which is a middle point where life can kind of flourish, because you have this mixture of the elements instead of just this collision and destruction.
Okay.
And so in those areas, you get very diverse magic and life, like you would from, any medieval or fantasy game kind of situation. Most all the normal D&D stuff will be there. But they're kind of in this constantly unstable state because the elemental planes are still fighting each other.
Okay.
And so whatever your... so most calls don't last very long. They're a few millennia at best, usually. Maybe a few million years if they're lucky.
Okay.
Anor is one kala that's been around for over 100 million years. It's a very old one. It's been a very kind of this bastion of stability in this sea of elemental energies known as Lorfwinta. And Anor has developed very intelligent life over time. And
Megan Robinson. She's just phoneticizing various phrases that you're saying.
Kolal.
Tawafa Dinanan.
Tawafa Dadanan. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're actually Irish deities, but basically, because it's been around so long, intelligent life was able to develop. Of varying intelligence, of course.
Intelligent.
Yeah, it's true.
You'll all meet Helri. Don't worry about it.
It's gonna be a whole thing. Yeah, that's looking a little better. I think I'm actually gonna throw a little more white around just the front, just to really distinguish his hair from his face. However, they've still been in conflict with the elements since the beginning of the Kala. Fortunately, as time went on, these intelligent life forms developed magic and weaponry of their own, and instead of being at the mercy of these battles between the Fomorians of the elemental planes, the intelligent races of Anor were able to take the fight to them. And not only were the Fomorians fighting each other, but the people of Anor were also trying to throw them back.
Huh.
And the most recent group that has done this, that we have histories of, were the Tuatha De Danann. Before they were gods, they were heroes. And they were united by a traveling elf woman named Danu, who brought them together in the north, created an entire society as the Fomorians were laying waste to Anor, and then led a charge and managed to throw them all back into the elemental planes. And
Hell yes.
And so the Tuatha became basically objects of adulation, of course, and basically became objects of adulation and respect, and eventually worship. Mm-hmm. So over time, they gained followers. First they were kings and had kingdoms and territories, and eventually people started having temples to them and made offerings and sacrifices and sent prayers their way.
Oh.
And of course, they weren't gods initially.
Yet.
They were mortals, and eventually they, like any mortal, were at the end of their time. But, and this is where it gets kind of mysterious, rather than disappearing, dying, they entered through these portals known as seeds, which are basically holes into the earth beneath mounds, like small hills or burial mounds and whatnot.
Sure.
And these seeds are passageways to usually the Feywild or the Shadowfell. Mm-hmm. These old heroes from the past went through these seeds and were not heard from again for many, many years. And the people kind of assumed they were gone, that their heroes had left them, and that they were now alone in this world. Until prayers, which had been more so just kind of like objects of adoration more than actual expectation of any return on investment, the prayers started getting answered. Things started happening.
Okay.
Prayers for rain resulted in, on occasion, rain. Prayers for victory in battle resulted in seeing a strange black-robed woman on the battlefield that seemed to change and alter the outcome of things. And over time, these characters, the Tuatha, became known to actually be influencing the world again, but in more subtle ways, in ways that were less overtly heroic and much more elemental. And eventually, they became the new gods of this world. And fast forward, I think of it at about 4,000 years, and Tuatha worship is still very strong in Anor, but it is being replaced by the march of progress in various societies, as people are turning from worshiping gods to worshiping other ideals. Such as in Carrig, the dwarven city, collectivism, kind of this faith in unity and strength. In Durnod, more of an industrial city, of faith in progress and personal merit.
Oh, okay.
To the south, a faith in a new god found in the depths of a deep chasm below the Dorma range.
What could ever be dangerous or concerning about that?
Yeah,
that's going to go great.
It's good, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then to the west, faith in an ancestral lineage of elves that came down from Brigid, the Moonbow,
Okay.
who this this race of elves, this lineage of elves, has been leading them for many thousands of years and creating a society of beauty and tolerance.
Nice.
And so these tribes, rather than worshiping the Tuatha, these tribes in these cities are beginning to actually have their own inclinations and their own desires and identities. And now they're starting to run up against one another a little bit. Where have you seen this theme before? It's honestly one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite tropes in any fantasy. Is a good, well-wrought political intrigue. Social political tension there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where you guys fall in.
Hey.
So that's sort of the world that you have, that you're entering, is this world of increasing tensions of varying layers of conflict that move all the way from the interpersonal squabblings of nobles all the way up to the deeply elemental, destructive conflicts of primordial gods.
Those gods sound pretty cool. I'd like to learn more about them. But we'll see. Anyway, we should probably take a break, seeing as how it's 7:30, and we can air out the garage a little bit. Take a break, refresh our drinks, and then come back and keep working on the boy. Just because, honestly, two things. One, it's so goddamn hot.
It is so hot. It is so hot. My brain is starting to sizzle.
And two, we could both really use fresh beers. So I'm going to kick up the music a little bit. We're going to let that play while we take a quick 15-minute break, and we'll be back in a few, y'all. Peace.
Take it.
I'm sorry.
Are you trying to convince somebody of something again?
I'm sorry to all of you. You caught on and you've known me the longest. I haven't been entirely forthright with you. first time I adopted that speech and changed the way that I looked, everyone listened. Everyone was quiet. That felt better. So I figured no Vandrin might as well fill that void. Maybe it would suit me, serve me. I think it did, for a while. Seems to be at peace. That is not how I felt. Don't feel at peace. That seems wrong.
You know, maybe you're just at a place now where you don't need those things.
Perhaps. But you have saved my skin, and I will be here if I can to save yours.
All your powers came from that sword?
Let's find out. I didn't have any before them.
Put your hand out.
But that's the glove.
Well, but it's on your hand, so you hold onto that.
Where's that whip?
Yeah. You have things that are more useful than this, but for now. I'm going to let you speak to her.
To who?
To the Wild Mother. You have 3 questions. The answers will be simple, just yes or no, simple positives or negatives. And it can be, I know we have a lot here, and if you have any questions about what we're getting into, that's fine, but I wanted to give you the opportunity of maybe clarifying something that's inside of you.
Right, 3 questions. Simple yes or no answers.
Or complex yes or no's.
All right. I miss having the ability to affect greater change by having more at my fingertips. If I would change the way that I live, change what I focus on or do, would you be able to help me regain some sort of standing in a way that's similar to what I knew before?
What's up, nerds? We return.
Somewhat cooled off. Maybe
A
just
little
like
bit.
a degree or 2 below heat stroke. So doing
That
better.
should keep us going
Exactly.
for a while at
And
least.
we've got half, so we're all set.
We do indeed. I have finished all of my walls. I don't even know what I'm going to work on. Oh, let's see the updated Salamir hair. Oh yeah.
Look good?
Oh yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
we need to get in for the close up there, don't we?
We do.
All right, let's get
Close-up cam. All right, so definitely I wanted his hair to be like snow white and his skin to have that kind of like ashy look to it. I might even go over his skin and dry brush on like black.
That is probably not going to produce the effect you're looking for.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Another way to get that would be possibly another layer of wash, getting careful not to get it on the hair. Because you can see how it's sort of already made it a little more gray. So if you're trying to darken it more, that's probably the better way to go.
I might do that then.
Yeah.
Just be real careful with it.
Nice.
Okay.
And then he's got pretty pronounced eyebrows, the mini does, so it might be good after you've done the next wash to go back in and just paint the eyebrows pure white, because that'll make that sort of like pop out a little bit more.
Yeah, the eyebrows are already popping pretty good, I feel like.
They're decently popped. They've got some of the black wash on them though, which is just
Yeah,
a natural side effect.
they got that pop.
Pop pop.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
actually, looking at it a little closer, he might not need the black wash.
Feeling good about it?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. He's already pretty dark skinned at this point, and his hair is pretty light.
There's definite distinction between the two.
Yeah.
So maybe just hit those eyebrows with white?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that.
All right, what are we doing next? I guess I'm doing my wood.
You've already. Yuck.
No, I have a lot of
Only
wood
the
tiles.
highest brow humor.
Only. I mean, that's what they can expect on the stream, right?
Uh,
Especially with Helri being there.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I think that you're not going to be the only one at this stage. I think everyone's.
Have I ever been?
No. Everyone's really feeling their oats. We just reintroduced Heyu's baby mamas back into the thing.
That's right. Forgot about that. And he's got baby mamas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so cute.
These feelings envelop you like a warm bath.
Yeah, I was a little shocked at the amount of backlash y'all had that you hadn't literally invented kobolds.
Oh man, I was playing with that assumption for so long.
That this is the origin story of kobolds.
This is where kobolds came from.
I mean, I was more so, when I first introduced that concept, more so I was thinking about in the general sense that, like, you know, time immemorial, way back when, a dragonborn and a goblin had a strange and illicit affair.
Nah, man, it was Hey You.
It was freaking Hey You. It was your party all along that did it.
It really was.
I mean, I kind of regret not leaning into that a bit more, but also that would have thrown a whole lot of other lore out the window. So.
I really like the idea of Peldon being the officiant at the wedding that created kobolds.
You really really, really want to have had a hand in the making of these devious little bastards.
But it's soft. Maternal.
Oh man, we haven't gotten to talk about it, but like,
Could be either.
can I just tell you how great it was to use quicklings in a game?
These feelings wash into your
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man, they were great.
main ideas.
They definitely took me by surprise. I didn't think they'd have 3 attacks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's pretty hysterical. Poor Ostara. We're all like, look at these little. Oh my god!
Oh my god.
And then it turns out Magic Missile says, "Screw you to quicklings."
Friggin' Bridget and Crystal and Sophia were literally all like, oh my god, they sound so cute. And then in one round, 3 of them swarm Crystal's character and just prison shank her to death. Just a
Yeah, and apparently
Go to sleep, go to
their
sleep,
knives
go to
are
sleep.
like canonically half an inch long, and
I mean,
so
they're as long as they need to be to do damage.
I mean, like half an inch is like maybe like most of the end of this paintbrush long, right? And so literally, there's tiny little knives here. Like the amount of sheer stabby stab they would have had to do. Granted, I do kind of think the idea of them basically being like tattoo guns is hysterical. Just tattoo guns digging for gold. I'm kind of on board, especially with the idea that maybe like their 3 attacks are actually like 9 attacks. They just, 3 of their strikes counts as 1 attack.
It's just that's what's representative of the damage.
And meaning that the like wounds left by a quickling are terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
They just hamburgerize you.
Yeah, your skin is fucking shredded.
Yeah.
You are toast, man.
They take you apart.
All right.
Okay,
So we feeling good on the skin and the hair?
I think so.
Huzzah.
Yeah.
All right. So what would be the next layer out for him, and what color do you want it to be?
Well, his armor is mostly black,
Okay.
to be honest. So it kind of like is already almost at that point. I did kind of want to brush a little bit of, I was kind of torn here because he did also get this new armor of radiant resistance. Mm-hmm. Well, I was thinking of working that into the flavor for this armor. So perhaps like a little bit of purple.
Oh, nice.
So kind of like a black with purple, kind of like a purple highlight to it almost.
Uh-huh.
I'm not really sure how exactly I want to do that.
Well, here's one idea. When things are black, I actually generally recommend painting them a very dark gray.
Okay.
So we've got an extremely dark gray here that is like, actually most people just kind of think it's black, but it provides just enough shading and highlighting naturally on its own because it's not actually pure black. And then you can go in layers mixing that with something like this to paint the higher areas, and then sort of dry brush a little bit of this, and then maybe go back in and paint the very edges of the armor with this, or maybe this mixed in with the darker purple.
Okay.
To if you don't want it to be that stark.
Okay. Oh, Ladybug's on.
No. Hey, what's up, lady?
What do you mean size doesn't matter? It only doesn't matter if you don't have it. All right.
Yeet.
Okay. Knives. Oh, yeah, that is true.
Oh, the size of the knife.
Size doesn't matter. Just the rapidity of the
the
stabbing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's all that matters.
I feel like people need to take that advice with a grain of salt, especially if they try to apply it to other things.
Can't imagine what other things you're thinking of.
No,
Not even a little bit.
not I. I'm not that guy. Oh god, I totally forgot I need to varnish all my walls. Another time.
That sounds like a euphemism. Excuse me, I need to varnish my walls.
It's been a few days since I varnished my walls, so I'm just gonna go varnish my walls with it's a spray varnish.
So, how long's it been since you've, varnished your walls?
Raccoon didn't even have enough room in his pod.
Absolute legend. I mean, of course, the star of the whole of DBZ Abridged has to be Nappa, though.
Vegeta.
Vegeta! I'm haunting you.
God damn it, Nappa. Why am I not getting enough yellow on my brush?
That and the fact that they made a very reasonable and a very reasonable argument for why Vegeta or Nappa definitely is back to life again.
Yeah.
Which makes me very happy.
Yeah. It's like, no, that's a good point.
Yep.
Canonically.
According to the wording of the wish,
Yep.
Nappa is once again alive. Which personally, I always thought Nappa was the more terrifying of the Saiyans to invade.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I mean, Vegeta always had this kind of dangerous, this power element to him, but Nappa, really was the one that was kicking the crap out of the warriors.
It's true.
And he was scary. The guy did not mess around. Most of the whole Saiyan arc was them fighting Nappa.
Yeah, that's true. I love in DBZA where Vegeta's like, I haven't even killed anything since I got to this planet.
Yeah.
Gohan, remember Icarus? He did it. Oh, that's bullshit.
It's so good. It's so good.
Seriously, if you haven't watched DBZA, Dragon Ball Z Abridged on YouTube, go, my children.
Seriously, way too good. Entirely too good.
That's been done.
Even if you haven't watched Dragon Ball Z, you can kind of enjoy that show.
I mean, my kids have never seen Dragon Ball Z, but they've seen Dragon Ball Z Abridged, and
There you
they
go.
friggin' love it.
Mm-hmm. I think his belt's gonna be a different color.
That's always a good idea. Mm-hmm. That contrast halfway down the model. Oh man.
I will admit, I'm currently playing two elven characters.
Uh-huh.
Honestly, they're both sort of independently extreme polar opposites of each other.
Yeah.
My other one is a Sun Eladrin.
Oh wow.
Yeah, who
That's very different.
yeah, well, I kind of think of the Shadar-kai almost as, I mean, lore-wise and abilities-wise, they are Eladrin,
A
really.
little bit, yeah.
I mean, Eladrin also share that phase step kind of teleport ability,
Right.
which the Shadar-kai have.
Right.
And so I think that Shadar-kai are very much branched off kind of Shadow Eladrin. Mm-hmm. And Grian Aran is my Sun Eladrin, my Summer Court Eladrin, and I modeled him to be like a Gaston-esque character. So,
I hate him already.
Yo, he's awful. He's so insufferable. Every line he doesn't remember anyone's name. He has no interest in anything anyone else is doing, and his whole purpose in life is to create as much notoriety and assemble as much money and fame and affection as he can. So he's incredibly boisterous. He's like if you combined Gaston with Captain Hammer from Dr. Horrible sing-along blog.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Captain Hammer's here. Yeah. And threw in just a splash of Phoebus from The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow. I just... Hard to imagine how I could hate him anymore.
Yeah, no, he's awful. Everyone hates him. But the annoying thing is that, they kind of love to hate him, and now they're starting to call me Sun Fury out of game. They're like, hey, it's Sun Fury! I'm like, that is the character... I made this character for a one-shot to be hated.
I do not want anything to do with this.
Why is this the character I'm being associated with?
Right.
But it's very jarring to go from playing that guy to playing Salamir,
Yep.
who has very little interest in fame or any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And everybody kind of loves.
yeah, like in a weird sort of he's just so innocent. And yet not really.
And yet not at all.
Yeah.
Oh, too much yellow.
Okay, and his shield's gotta be different, but I'm gonna go ahead and paint it the same color as the armor for now. I think I'm gonna paint like a raven totem on the shield.
Oh, wow. Gonna get all up in there.
Maybe.
That should be one of the last details, probably. Because,
Oh yeah.
oh, do you want to use the painting handle, by the way? It does tend to make things a bit easier.
This is working working pretty good so far, but I'll definitely bust it out in a little bit here.
Okay.
I think I got his armor all painted now.
Okay, sweet. So now maybe mix up that dark purple for the highlights, first level of highlights.
Yeah, permanent violet dark. Okay. For the highlights, I guess that's just kind of like brushing it on really light.
Well, kind of just getting the slightly more exposed parts. Like if the shoulder plates are going to be that color, definitely sort of like hit the exposed areas there. Like if you notice on like Toph here, you'll see that there's a very dark gray in the curves in the creases of her biceps and stuff, and then at the edges. And so, but I painted everything else with like a lighter shade of gray. And so it's that sort of thing of almost creating an outline by not painting the very edges and the depths of what you're trying to accentuate. Oh, you know what I usually do for the second half of the show? I'm going to crack the garage door because we don't have traffic anymore.
Oh, excellent. A good idea this is.
Liddy says, you do have some of the bro vibe.
The bro TM vibe.
Bro!
That's
Trademarked.
That's how we do. Come on now. Let's see here. His gloves should probably stay darker because they're not metallic. I'm just gonna kind of actually do a little fake dry brushing here. I do kind of want it to look almost like he's like the chainmail is reflecting like purple light.
Nice. Yeah, just like very, very slight touches with an even lighter purple, like in a few spots will sort of give it that like like textured reflective surface where it's not catching on every high surface, but just sort of on some of it.
Yeah.
Like the outside of a disco ball. A sentence that could not describe Salamir any less.
It is true. Yeah, this guy is not ostentatious. Which is why
Good dancer, though.
why I have such a hard time playing him. Yeah, it's true. That is my favorite part about him. He is charismatic when it counts.
I love that both you and Nolan are playing characters with extremely high charisma who are extremely awkward.
Yeah, well, you know, what is charisma if not your ability to own yourself?
Right?
To an extent. I mean, I think that's force of personality right there.
Exactly.
You know, if you're a charismatic person, it isn't necessarily that you are likable so much as is you own you.
Yep.
And people who own themselves are likable. Because we all want to own ourselves.
Well, sometimes they're likable.
Well, that's... Yeah, actually, I would say that they might be polarizing, but they're... People pay attention.
Yeah.
I mean, think of like the last... okay, so I don't want to get into politics. Never mind. We're gonna...
Oh, yeah, if we want to go there, that's a whole...
The whole can of worms, but you see what I'm saying,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. We're getting offers of backup. It's very well appreciated, but I think we have all hands on deck at the moment. Okay. That's cute, boy.
Cutest face.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of liking the sort of purple element coming through on this.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's real light. That's my goal, is to make it real light, but I think it's gonna look really badass once it's all sort of realized.
I'm going to say it. So much wood.
Oh! You brushed that wood, sir.
I am brushing the wood.
Vigorously brush that wood.
I am just... I could not be stroking the wood anymore.
Make sure you get in the creases there. Get full grain accentuation.
I'm trying really just to kind of edge it as much as I possibly can.
Ah, yes, that's a good idea. You know, you're gonna want like long kind of vertical strokes, you know? Make sure you're following that like lengthwise pattern there. Yep. Yep.
I can't read that emoji, but yeah. I think it's an eye roll. I'm betting it's an eye roll.
Yeah, that's super true, Angus. Like, Eldong does totally have that intense, charismatic, like, awkwardness to him. People can't help but respond to him. Oh, boy. What am I doing here? Alright, so the metallic armor is kind of purpley sheened. The pants themselves are kind of black leather.
Of course they are.
Well, they're not tight black leather, at least. They're just black leather. Look, he's an edgelord, all right? He is my version of an edgelord here. Leave me alone. I told you this was a testament to Catcall. I wanted to play it again, and Catcall was a hardcore edgelord. He turned into a murder bird by the end of it, because the Raven Queen lore in that world got like really skewed. So the Black Cauldron came in, which is literally like, hey, you want a factory to make undead stuff?
Right.
Yeah, and the DM was basically like, oh yeah, the Raven Queen's cool with it. I'm like, this goes against everything I ever thought I understood about the Raven Queen based on the lore I've been reading. So, That's gonna be Catcall. Catcall now is like, oh, well, okay, in that case, I'm following the queen, so I'm gonna murder everyone and put them all in the Black Cauldron.
If there was one thing about that campaign, it was that the DM would not talk to the players.
Yep.
It was rough.
Very much had his own idea about how things should go.
And it didn't matter what anybody else thought.
Do we have like... no, I'm almost thinking like a brown mixed in with black.
For what?
For his pants and like...
We got a very dark chocolatey brown right here.
Yeah, maybe like a
Mix
dark
that in
chocolate
with,
brown with the black there.
Yeah.
I'm digging the chill hop vibes.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah, we mention every stream, but the music that we play each week is by Autumn Orange. They're a fantastic musician. All of their music pretty much is based off of Critical Role. So you'll hear lots of Critical Role voice samples working its way through the melodies and everything like that. And they offer their music for free for streamers as long as you mention them and give them a shout out. But honestly, you should go buy their stuff on Bandcamp and wherever else they have it available, because they're freaking awesome. They're just, and I've become a little bit obsessed with their music, and it's so not even like the type of music that I normally listen to, but man, it just is great for sitting here and painting.
Yep, chill hop is the jam. I listen to more than a little. I'm listening to more than a little of it when I'm writing or campaign prepping.
Yeah.
Because I cannot have like vocal music going while I'm writing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've had this experience as well, but like if there are words involved in the music I'm listening to, like I can't write. It won't work.
Well, interestingly, the only thing that I've ever written to and the thing that I always write to is Rise Against, but only them. And it's like, I know their discography so well that I feel like I don't have to pay attention to the words, and that's kind of the thing. If I don't know the music well enough, then I start paying more attention to the music and I can't write. But like their music just kind of sinks into my subconscious and makes my fingers move.
Oh, interesting.
I've tried tons of other stuff. I've tried non-vocal music. I've tried movie soundtracks. I've tried all sorts of stuff. And I've literally measured my production and like how fast I write and all the rest of it, and Rise Against every single time. And I've had other people try it as well, and it does not work for them. It is a me thing.
Everybody's different. I write really well to Nightwish.
Okay.
Yeah, which, not one I listen to at all in my day-to-day life, but when I'm writing, like, nothing gets me more, like, gets me moving, gets my fingers going faster than, like, Nightwish, and, like, really over-the-top, like, hyper-dramatic, like, Celtic metal kind of electronic sort of sounds. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just epic enough that I stop judging myself so much, maybe?
Yeah. Hey, have you ever tried writing in Comic Sans?
No.
I actually have yet to try this. I meant to do it on my last book and then I forgot. But apparently, because the font is so ridiculous, it unlocks a part of the human brain that just completely does away with any inhibitions.
Really?
You're like, oh, of course I'm going to write fast, and I'm not going to worry about what I'm putting down because it's Comic Sans.
Yeah, do I really care? I'm literally writing in the rough draft font. I could not give less of a fuck at this moment in my life.
Exactly. How's that looking?
Starting to come together. Just like a...
Oh, I like that. Yeah, very, very subtle purple.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see it's there, clearly, but it's very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, it's up to you if you want to go for like 1 or 2 layers of highlight on that.
I think I do, just to like make it appear a little bit more like metallic, I suppose.
Yeah. Have you heard, do you know the different sort of like, I've talked about this before, of like you should always have a goal for your painting, and like what are you going for? If you're going for winning a painting competition, that's one thing. Me personally, I always paint for table visibility.
Right.
And so details that don't necessarily look super great up close, when you're viewing the model on the table, it pops out a lot more.
Right.
And so like that makes for some like sharper highlights and contrast and everything like that. And one thing that I think would make that purple like really amazing is if you gave it this or a couple shades lighter on just the edges of like the shield and maybe the scales and everything like that.
Is that more like a metallic sort of effect there?
It can, if you could maybe mix that with a little bit of silver paint. You're making the Witcher.
Just, like Geralt of Rivia.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, yeah, there's a lot of inspiration from Geralt of Rivia. Like, there were a couple of characters I was directly, like, referencing when I was coming up with Salamir, because I went into it with the knowledge that he's an edgelord. Like, he's going to be this, like, edgy, sort of brooding character. But I didn't want that to be insufferable, because that kind of character is annoying to play alongside. And so I was trying to think, what examples of good edgelords are there? And Geralt of Rivia, I think, is one of the best, in that he is a, like, you know, he is extremely edgy, extremely troubled, but he does actually play well with others when they make sense.
Exactly.
And he isn't a giant asshole,
Nope.
you know? He's just like, yeah, I'm different, and I've accepted I'm different, and the world sometimes sucks, and I'm prepared to confront that and deal with it as it happens, rather than trying to, like, pretend otherwise and or, you know, mask it with comedy or some kind of fakeness.
Also, I like my alone time. Fuck you.
Mm-hmm. Which I think we can all resonate with that.
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, alone time.
Yeah, what's that stuff?
Right?
One thing I did want to do is give the chain like a silver, like a gradient, like silver effect to it.
Mm-hmm. A gradient, so like brighter towards the tip?
Yeah, as it goes. And I guess that metallic sterling probably would work for that. Looks like, maybe.
Yeah, you could start dark, and so this would be one of the darker, maybe this is, didn't I have gunmetal in here somewhere? Okay, so that was going to be the darkest metal that I have. So you could paint that on as a base coat and then do that from like 2/3 to the end, and then do that like 1/3 and then hit the tip with some of the sterling. And
Just
that would
the tip,
probably,
though.
Just the tip.
Just the tip.
You just want to hit the tip. There is no good edgelord, Jesse. Don't lie. Oh, hard disagree. Hard disagree.
Yep.
There's a lot of interesting edgelords.
Aragorn, 100% an edgelord.
Never even thought about that. That's also definitely movie Aragorn, but yeah.
No, I'd say book Aragorn as well. He comes across as a very like brooding character who's seen too much of the world and lived too long. And his whole thing is he's basically this ranger who spent his life kind of not necessarily on the run but on the move and kind of displaced because he doesn't fit in anywhere because he's got the blood of ancient kings in him. And he isn't an asshole at all, but he doesn't fit right with other people, and he doesn't really care to like entertain dumb kind of what's what I'm looking for here? Irrelevant? No. Maybe. Kind of. Mundane stuff?
See, yeah, well, but I don't think so. I was going to say, the other, like, what I was going to say as a counter argument to Aragorn Edgelord is, like, Aragorn likes to have fun. He likes to party. And when he gets the chance to, he really does. Like, he pulls Bilbo aside and he's like, let's tell a whole fucking poem for Elrond. And then Bilbo's like, I want to tell a poem about Elisar. And Aragorn, or not Elisar, but, what's his face? And Aragorn's like, you fucking crazy bastard. Let's totally do it. You shouldn't do this, but since you're doing it anyway, I'm going to help you with a couple of lines. Here we go.
That's not edge. I mean, there's no reason that can't be edgelord, though, is kind of my point. Like, edgelords are not necessarily assholes all the way down, and they're not necessarily totally lacking in an ability to have fun. You know? I think they're kind of their main trope. I think the way to define an edgelord effectively to where you can still make an interesting one is somebody who is broken and trying to fix themselves.
Huh.
Because somebody who's broken and doesn't care to fix themselves just sucks, to be honest. Like, that kind of character, maybe the world's trying to force them to fix themselves, and maybe that can be interesting. But, you know, when an edgelord is annoying in D&D is when that character's like, well, I saw my whole family murdered in front of my eyes, and therefore I murder everyone I see. And you're like, well, you're just a dick then.
Maybe you should live a better life now.
No, I'm too dark and brooding for that.
Aragorn is a noble babe. Also true.
Edgelords, so is Geralt. Geralt is a noble babe. And I'd say Geralt is a good example of an edgelord.
I'd say Geralt is definitely an edgelord. No question there.
Mm-hmm. He's like, I suffered the frickin' mutations of Kaer Morhen and survived. Therefore, I got some shit to work through. Alright, we're gonna kind of make his a little more of an actual leather look to his boots and his belt.
Wow, I say there's no traffic, and then like every fucking motorcycle within a 10-mile radius goes driving through this one outlet neighborhood.
Oh, like you do.
All right, so for the wood, we started with a sort of a medium brown, and then dry brushed yellow, pretty rough to be honest, to give it a sort of wood grain. And then lastly, I'm going to go on with a pretty light dry brush of khaki.
Khaki?
Khaki.
Khaki tobacco. Alright.
You know, you're talking about the Kenku.
Catcall.
With the notebook full of phrases and stuff like that. Interestingly, Helri also has a notebook full of phrases.
I'm sure very colorful ones.
They're amazing, and I cannot wait to start busting them out.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like probably... So we're going to do a test on Sunday.
That's
test recording.
Ideally, yeah.
Yeah. And that means that we could be going the week after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which means we'll have our first session zeros happening. Which I'm thinking is going to be a U3. Alex, and Bridget.
Hell yeah.
And
Were we still gonna try and do all the game zeros together, or are we gonna do them each week to week?
well, I think no, we're gonna try and do the 2-person session zeros on one,
Okay.
and then we're gonna just keep the 3-person session 0 to. Oh, that looks good. That looks really good, I think. And we're gonna keep the 3-person session 0 to 1 day because I don't want to rush that.
Okay. Oh my god, that's so exciting. So on this wood...
Agree to disagree. The noise isn't that bad.
What are you wearing, Jake from State Farm? So, Angus said, come to think of it, isn't nearly every main human character in Lord of the Rings an edgelord? So, now, you are, of course referring to Boromir, Faramir, and Denethor, and I would say all 3 of them edgelord. All 3, in their own unique ways. Actually, Denethor's not
They've all got daddy issues.
Yeah, Denethor is less of an edgelord and more of like a non-villain antagonist, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, other than Tom Bombadil, although he's not really human, is he?
He's also not main.
Why didn't he show up in the movies? Favorite freaking character that didn't make it into the movies.
I understand, though, he literally does nothing for the story.
Yeah, but he's so cool.
He is super cool. He is definitely very cool.
Damn it. I don't think that worked. Shit. And
then, of course, that argument becomes a little hard to keep up when you then move on to the Hobbit movies. And you're like, well, there's a lot of stuff made it into these that didn't do anything for the story.
Yeah. Still no Tom Bombadil. I think mainly because everyone would be sitting there like, why didn't he just go kill Sauron? What are you doing?
Oh, hey, do you want to talk about the Eagles?
Oh yeah, right. Gosh, I mean,
Are we ready for this conversation, Jesse? Are you ready for my Eagles take?
Yeah. All right. Give me your Eagles take.
Every motherfucker out there who's like, why didn't the Eagles just fly them to Mordor and drop the ring in the fucking mountain, is an idiot. And it's so clear in both the movies and the books why that is not possible and could not have happened.
My main thing is because of the frickin' dragon riders.
The Nazgul?
Yeah.
Yes! Hello!
Sauron had ample anti-air weaponry at his disposal.
Exactly.
And the Eagles are not a race that's willing to sacrifice themselves.
And never have been.
Yeah, because they're like, okay, well, the smaller races, like, you got your battles to fight. Are they going to be able to kill the Eagles? Probably not. We'll fight them if they come to us, but we're not going to go to them.
Right.
And, like, that's just culturally speaking, like, I think the Eagles looked at that issue as being the small folks issue.
Exactly.
And insofar as, like, going and saving Bilbo, that was more like a, hey, like, warrior's honor kind of thing. Like, this guy friggin' moved heaven and earth to make this happen. We'll, like, swoop in through after the battle.
Yep.
And go kind of, like, get him out of there. That's not really that risky to us. And
Exactly.
it is sort of like a, you know, we're not evil. We're just kind of chaotic neutral, lawful neutral.
Oh, we can go in there because there's literally no threats anymore and save somebody who might have saved, like, Middle-earth? Sure! I'm not doing anything else today.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, oh, we're going to fly into certain death when Sauron is literally scanning his entire country mercilessly all the time and has flying creatures that can pull us down out of the sky? Fuck you!
Yeah. I don't think the Eagles could have beat the Nazgul.
Not even
Like,
close.
Yeah, especially not with the actual Wraith Riders on there. Because the
Exactly.
Wraiths themselves were destroyed when Sauron fell.
Right.
So when you're talking about like the actual true danger of the Nazgul being these riders, and I don't even know if the Eagles could have gotten close without the riders doing some psychic crap to them.
100%. 100%.
And you had the Witch King to deal with, who didn't really get expanded upon in the movies. Like that guy had to have had some other abilities though.
Yeah. I mean, he shattered Gandalf's staff, although that was in the extended edition, so a lot of people didn't know about that. Mm-hmm. But like, motherfucker was not one to mess with.
No.
And you know, for as many problems as I have with the Hobbit movies, and to be clear, I do not think that the Hobbit movies are as bad as, for example, the Star Wars prequels, but like, I wish they'd cleared a higher bar than that.
Yeah.
But as many problems as I did have with those movies, the one thing that I thought was cool that I would have kept in on all the extraneous stuff that got added was the White Council going and confronting Sauron when he was in that shit was awesome.
That was some great lore. That was some great backstory. I honestly am. It's funny because, you know, speaking to what we were avoiding talking about the whole elephant in the room with the makers of certain Moana songs and whatnot. I actually liked the Hobbit movies.
Oh, really?
I am in the minority on that one. I thought they were okay. Like, I thought that the worst part about them was definitely the shoehorned in romance with the dwarf and the elf. That did not need to be there in any way, shape, or form.
Nope.
But I thought for the most part, they did a pretty good job of capturing the different tone of The Hobbit versus Lord of the Rings, which The Hobbit was always more of a children's tale, like this very fanciful kind of adventure story that became the precursor to something much darker.
Right.
And that is sort of the vibe I always got from The Hobbit, was this very adventuresome kind of story. And I thought that the movies did a pretty decent job of that. Like, it was much more rambunctious, much more silly, and I enjoyed that. It made the world more fantastical, and less gritty. Which, you know, I think that depending on your take on it, of course, the Tolkien world is quite gritty by its very nature. But The Hobbit did not have that tone as a book, and I'm glad that they didn't try and make The Hobbit gritty as a movie.
I think they made it too gritty. I think that they
Really?
I think that they made it too, like, I think that they tried to have both. Tried to have it both ways. They tried to have it be like a sequel to Lord of the Rings, while also having it be its own property that held true to the spirit of the book. And I was like, okay, if you just make a Hobbit movie that's just like the Lord of the Rings, that's going to be fine. Or if you make a Hobbit movie that is its own thing and is literally just like a fantasy romp for kids, that would have been cool. But also, I think that boils down to literally a single issue, and it's the loss of Guillermo del Toro in the director's chair. Lydia says,
Yeah.
we need to force you to watch and love Hamilton. Well, we need to force him to watch. Can't force, like, we're, genie rules here. Can't force anybody to love.
We can make them watch it.
Yeah.
Tie me down like Clockwork Orange style.
But,
Well, but yeah, totally, Lydia, as far as the Eagles, yeah, they don't involve themselves in lives of men. They're totally like, they're outside, they're removed from things, and they only really help out because Gandalf is literally a freaking god. And
Angel.
or okay, semantics, bro.
We're talking about celestial hierarchies. He's definitely in the angel category.
A diva kind of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he is.
Well, he'd be more like a planetar.
Sure.
Yeah.
But definitely he doesn't really fall into the idea of like the issues of men necessarily.
Right.
Sort of, kind of, and that was one of his whole things, that he gave up a lot of the Gandalf and his kin gave up the powers of angels in order to participate and make a difference in the world of men.
Right.
And so the Eagles, that's somewhere in between for them. It's like, okay, I wouldn't do it if Boromir asked me to, but Gandalf.
Also, Gandalf literally did like a bunch of stuff for the Eagles specifically, like healed the king when he got wounded by an arrow, and helped save them from orc attack like 250 years before the stories or something like that. Like, they literally specifically owed him favors. So when they flew down in The Hobbit, for example, and he was like getting ready to throw down with the goblins, they were like, hey, do you want to just like fly over the next mountain range? And he's like, oh, Jesus, yes.
For the love of God. Whew.
Lydia's like, watch me try, in reference to forcing you to love Hamilton.
I mean, I have watched you for a while now, Lydia, trying to make me love that movie or that show.
Yeah, so just to get it all out in the open, anybody who's watching, Jesse doesn't like Hamilton, and also didn't like Moana.
I did like Moana. I just didn't
not
like
the music in Moana, which he watched separately and independently, not realizing that it was Lin-Manuel. And then when he found out, he was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I can officially say that I have blind tested not liked Lin-Manuel Miranda's style of music. I mean, I understand, everyone's different. I'm not going to hate on people that like it, but I don't care for that.
Yep.
So, deal with it. That said, I will watch it, just to see. And as I've said before, it's not that I don't think that it's probably a fine musical. It's just that I don't care for the reception it's gotten for what it is. But that's me.
Oh my god, so close to being... Oh shit, I have a whole bunch of other shit to dry brush. Yeah, good, that's fine. It's okay. We're just gonna keep going.
Is good. Iridescent stainless steel. What's this?
It's like a medium tone. The metallics specifically, you want to shake them pretty hard before you start painting with them, because they...
Oh, whoops. Well, it's too late for that.
Oh, okay. Well, it's hopefully fine.
Looks okay. Is this the silver looking one? Lead Belcher.
Yeah. That is the lead belcher is the more medium toned.
Is there like a really bright silver one?
Yes, this is the brightest silver that I've got, and it is
Vivid?
bright. Yeah, it's up there. I'm going to refill myself real quick. You want one?
Oh, yes, please. It's just wrong. You haven't even seen it. I've listened to it, okay? Like, okay, so I get that I haven't seen it, and not having seen it does definitely mean that judging it based on only a portion of its overall qualities. But even that one portion, to me, doesn't mean, like, to me, wasn't that good. It was not that good. And in my opinion, if you're trying to critique a musical, it's like trying to say, well, okay, so say Shrek was made literally this year. Like, as it looked back when it was first made in the early 2000s, it came out this year. And you're going to come out and say, it's an amazing movie, it's so good. And I'm like, well, yes, but the animation looks like it's 2 decades old. You know, like, what are you doing? This isn't, like, the animation isn't good. Well, that doesn't matter. The story and the writing are great. I'm like, right, but it's an animated movie. So if the animation isn't good, then is it still an amazing revolutionary movie, or is it just a movie that's good in some ways and not that good in other ways? And that's how I view Hamilton. Hamilton, to me, is probably good in some ways and is not good in the music department, which to me is a huge factor in determining whether a musical is any good or not. And so, like, that's my take on it. It isn't that it's necessarily bad. It just is not, to me, it didn't live up to the hype. But I will watch it. Don't get me wrong. I will watch the whole thing and see if the entire cohesive piece makes the music be better.
So that gets me into an interesting conversation of, like, okay, so, like, but what makes for good music? And there's so many factors in there, and, like, with the dissertations that have been written and the things that have been written, and literally by this point multiple books that have been written by music theorists and everything like that on the brilliance of Hamilton's music specifically, which really is what it's lauded for, is its music more than...
Which is exactly why I think it's, like, to me, it just doesn't click that it's, like, something I'm not even gonna like, because I think the music isn't good. And I'm like, clearly my taste in music is not operating in the same vein as other, like, critics and whatnot's taste in music. And that doesn't mean my taste is better, it just means my taste is different.
Have you tried to identify? And this gets into the thing, by the way, which is, like, if I were you, my answer, if somebody asked me about a book, unless it's The Wheel of Time, which I've been asked about so much that I've had to form opinions that I can express. But if somebody asks me about a book and I say I don't like it, and they say why not, I'm like, I don't know, I'm not a book critic. I'm not. I don't do that. I haven't analyzed why. But have you thought about, like, what, from a critical analysis perspective?
Well, I'm not a music critic, so I guess that makes my opinion.
Well, no, that's the thing, is that
no, I see I see where you're getting from. Like, I think that, like, it seems like, from what I've heard, a lot about Hamilton's music that people are enjoying has to do with kind of the use of motifs and whatnot, of, like, consistent themes throughout Hamilton's score that reflects back on the actual content of the story and continues to build upon those themes and create an ever more nuanced and textured kind of dialogue and discourse and rhetoric around the actual Hamilton story. And that I understand, you know, like, motifs are super important. And Lydia, you showed me one of the primary videos that has helped to, you know, give me a sense for where some of the hype comes from. But,
Stream is chugging and lagging, so I only hear bits of your excuses.
Ooh, shots fired. Oh, man. But, you know, I'm waiting to take my shot there. Yeah, like, for me, like, I get the idea of motifs and, like, consistent themes, but the music doesn't move me. It's not passionate enough. It doesn't bring that kind of, like, deep, powerful, ranting swell that I look for out of a lot of music, and especially rap, is this kind of really powerful escalation of energy followed by the drop, followed by this kind of vicious kind of movement through the ideas and the rants and the perspective of the person singing it. It feels very formulated, like dun 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 dun. Like this, to me, it sounds like nursery rhymes, which it frustrates me because I was going into it so excited for this really impassioned, just non-stop, like, emotional roller coaster of a show, and it just kind of is like, yeah, this is here. I guess I see where they're coming from. And Lin-Manuel Miranda's style in particular bugs me because it's extremely exposition-y. He does a lot more telling rather than showing, and this was my problem with Moana too, is I independently felt like this music is weirdly like preachy almost, like it's just kind of like he's just literally just singing the history. It's like it's a history lesson but sung. It's like schoolhouse rock, and it just bugs me. I don't know. I think the show don't tell is the part about Lin-Manuel's style that rubs me the wrong way, and that's really, I guess, my own personal opinion on it.
Right.
I understand that his music, his lyricism is very based on his story and his message, and that's actually part of his weakness for me, is that he's entirely too dependent on that as opposed to the emotionality that his actual music should convey. And I just don't get that out of his stuff.
Interesting.
But that said, I haven't watched it all the way through, so I will, and we will see.
Yeah, I think I feel like that's got to be the only thing that I can possibly recommend, because it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like you're telling me, and again, we're not going to get into this. This is an analogy. We're not going to get into politics here, okay? But I feel like you're telling me you didn't like Obama because he wasn't well spoken. And I'm like, listen, we can talk about so many things. We can talk about legitimate criticisms, and we can talk, but not well spoken is the one thing that I'm just like,
so
what?
For you, Lin-Manuel Miranda's music comes across as very emotional then, and very charged and very passionate.
I've listened to Wicked. I've listened to Les Mis. And I'm not a big musical theater guy, and I should stress that. I've listened to Les Mis. I've listened to Wicked. I've listened to, after you guys talked about it, Hadestown. I've listened to, well, didn't do anything for me.
Really?
Whereas every time I watch Hamilton, I'm a sobbing wreck by the end. And it starts about 45 minutes before, no, not 45, but like half an hour before the end, I start crying, and I'm still crying by the end of the play, with a brief 5-minute break for one song in there or two songs in there, 10-minute break that I'm not crying for. And so that's where I keep being like, I guess we just have to watch it and then talk about, because the emotionality of the music is the primary thing for me, and the relatability of it in a way that, like, Defying Gravity just doesn't matter to me and produces literally not a single thing of response for me. And that's why I feel so flat-footed in trying to even approach the conversation, because I'm just like, I don't,
like, we're just not even speaking the same language here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know.
I don't even know how to, like, begin to address that, because it's like I just disagree.
And that's fine, because, you know, I also have to interact with people in my life who find what do they call it? They find the world of Middle-earth flat. That's why they don't like Lord of the Rings. Not because it's overwritten or like too many words or you know, not even like none of the reasons that I'm like, oh, I can see somebody understanding it. They're like, yeah, just Middle Earth. It just kind of feels like cardboard, like cookie cutter. And I'm like, what?
What?
But that's the whole thing.
It defined the defined the cookie.
It
was the cookie.
That's the thing that everybody agrees is
This
good.
was the cookie, and then they made the model after the cookie, and then they cut things out with that cookie cutter
Right.
because they had Lord of the Rings to make the cutter after.
And like for some
Yeah.
people, it's like, yeah, but he like never defined his magic system, and I'm like, well, okay. I mean,
So I will say,
I guess that's where the conversation ends.
that's why I have actually steered away from liking Harry Potter as much, and that's another unpopular opinion nowadays. Is like, well, not nowadays. That's oh no, there's no sound.
There, Lydia, I don't know how to say this because you can't hear me, but like I just pulled up the stream and there is sound. You might just need to refresh your browser if you're not hearing anything.
We could probably send her a message in the chat.
Oh,
there.
actually, you know what? I can do that.
Yoink. Yeah, and like that's I mean I understand that, and I do respect that from like a basic perspective that like everyone's gonna have different tastes, like,
Yeah.
and I'm definitely not one to say that I'm an expert on rap. That for sure is not the case. I have found rap I greatly enjoy, Childish Gambino, for instance, is a good example for me of this kind of like relentless narrative form of rap that is very personal, but also kind of has this flippancy and this kind of cavalierness to it as well.
Yeah.
And I Am Jake Hill gets me in a real big way. Deeply emotional, powerful stuff, and it's a rant. It's not a story, it's a rant. And that is what I was excited to see, is this... That, and there's just some other things about it that didn't get me, but kind of like spiraling outwards more to that grand concept of like preferences in general about stuff.
Totally.
I think that that's entirely reasonable, and that there definitely is room that we can all be more humble about our opinions on something as well.
Exactly.
Because sometimes you just don't like something. Mm-hmm. There's no real good way of describing it. You're like, it just doesn't
do it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, I had a whole thing blow up on me last year because I don't like the Wheel of Time, and like, it is for many people the defining fantasy series. Like,
Good God, Salamir's face does not look good right now. I
Really?
won't lie. Yeah.
What happened? What's wrong with it? It gets a little bit rubbed off on the eyebrows.
He looks a little scary. Well, he is a little scary, so maybe
He's a
that's
little
appropriate.
scary.
It looks like a mask, though. It doesn't really look like skin.
face?
Yeah.
Eyes might help with that. You could try eyes. I'm also willing to go in for the eyes if you want me to.
I'm just debating I can't even remember what color I have his eyes as. I have them green. That would be an interesting juxtaposition. I'm gonna have them green. That's his like last remnant, or purple.
Oh, on the brushes, try not to actually rub them against the bottom. The best is just this.
Oh, apologies.
Yeah, it's no problem. It's not a big deal, but like over the lifetime of the brush, it just extends it that much more.
Yeah.
I'm looking for you. Oh, why are you sealed? Where's my pewter gray?
I'm gonna make Salamir's eyes. I don't think I ever actually defined what his eyes looked like,
A lot of people don't.
and that's important. So I'm gonna have his eyes be like emeralds. That's sort of an homage to his time in the Feywild, which, well, not really his time in the Feywild, but his ancestry from the Feywild.
I like it. But yeah,
That
you know,
does
being
help. That he does look more Vecna undead now too.
Oh, you just painted him straight green?
I mean,
Nice. Crazy. That's awesome. Are you planning on doing leveled up models for him, by the way?
oh, like when he gets higher level, maybe. I mean, he does have this.
I love that shit.
He does now have a studded. He does now have studded leather armor. So I should probably get that going.
And a very particular cloak.
That's that cloak is freaking great. Batamir makes me very happy.
Batamir.
Batamir.
Oh shit, I need paper. I'm gonna go get myself some parchment paper.
Can you hear us now, Lydia?
So when you're painting a bunch of terrain pieces, it's good to lay down wax paper and put the pieces on it, not only to protect the surface that you're placing them on, but also peeling them off afterwards. If the paint has dried between the piece and the surface, it will actually pull off some of the other paint and kind of ruin the piece a little bit.
Tips for Not Sucking by Garrett.
And honestly, wax paper or parchment paper will either one will work just fine. Speaking of which, am I ready to wash you? I think I'm ready to wash you.
I'm just saying that you look good that way as well. You look good this way, you would look good that way.
So dry brushes are the exception to the brush rule I just mentioned because they're shit, very stiff bristled.
Stifled.
God, so we might play the first game 0 in 12 days.
Yeah, right? Slightly terrified, also so excited.
Oh, so beyond excited.
I've heard you say his name.
Gotta love that camera refresh.
You were seeing through his eyes right now.
There you go.
Hell yeah, look at that shit. God damn. Here, let's get that on close up.
Getting it together there, bit by bit.
Look at him. Look at him. Oh my god. Cutest warlock. Oh, a little purple on the chain.
Yeah.
I like that. Hell yeah.
The purple's coming through real strong on the camera.
Right?
I'm digging it.
And that's the thing.
And the brown's actually in the boots.
And you can see when you look at it again, like table view, like, oh, that's definitely purple.
Yeah.
You know, even though it's not strongly pronounced.
Yeah. No, that actually I think is about where I want him, to be honest. That looks pretty solid. I cannot think of any other adjustments I wish to make.
On the whole mini?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like,
oh, goddamn. Okay, well, you ready to paint the base then? Do you want to do that?
Sure. I mean, does the base need to be painted? It's black, which is...
Well, you could make it, for
I guess
example,
I could dry brush it, yeah.
You could make it look like that sort of stone texture.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay,
Let's do
so you're going to want to start, and you've already got it out, so that, just paint the whole thing that gray. Careful not to splash too much on his boots.
Okay.
Oh, and then I mentioned this to Angus last week, but do you want to do a rim color for him?
Oh, you mean like around the edge?
Mm-hmm.
Purple, probably.
Nice.
That's my whole trend here.
Might be nice to do it like slightly brighter, because the awesome thing about rims is when you're looking at a table, it's so easy for everybody to pick out where individual characters are.
That is a good point.
You know?
That is a very good point, and I think I will do that. More vivid, kind of metallic purple.
Mm-hmm.
That'll really like set off the purple in his armor too.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the other thing, is that it can really tie a whole model together just with the color theory aspect of things.
Really?
I can taste colors. Oh, my mind is an enigma.
Maybe he's alive and you were seeing through his eyes right now.
I heard y'all did some RP time after the game on Sunday.
We did. It was pretty cool. I got to actually tell people what had gone on with me. That's pretty nice. And it was very Pelden. It was like, yeah, thought a lot about it, and I did it. I realized that it probably doesn't look like a good decision to other people, but I did it anyway. So that's what's occurring here.
Yeah, I was like, "Boy, this is happening right before you're gonna go see your parents."
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this. Don't make pacts with things without thinking about it, kids. It's dangerous. You can go horribly wrong very easily.
For the record, I thought about it a lot. And that's one aspect of it, which is like, Garrett had a lot more time to think about it than Pelden did.
Yep.
You know?
From the Pelden perspective, it's pretty reckless. But from the Garrett perspective, no, it was well thought out. And I definitely see where you're going with it. Just the way the world is going to react to that is certainly a bit different than how we as players being like, that's awesome.
For sure.
You made a pact with a... And you told them all about who you made the pact with as well, I imagine.
Yeah, and they already kind of knew that because he literally talked to them.
Yeah.
But it was just that sort of like, yeah, it's definitely a whole thing, whole promise now. A little bit of extra power, and I told him about the part of the deal where one day I'd get to stop being the warrior queen. Mm-hmm. Which I liked a lot. That was actually an incentive for Pelden. That wasn't like a okay, well, if I'm going to do this, then I at least need this. This was like, wait, would this be a way that I could one day still have the crown but not be the warrior queen? Oh shit, I'm in.
I can do that. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I gotcha. I me as the DM, I'm like, this is juicy. This is juicy.
Mm-hmm.
We are doing that for sure. But yeah, absolutely. That definitely put an interesting question there as to like what are the stakes at play.
Right.
Because I can't say too much about that.
Oh shit. Camera.
Burp. Weep.
And of course, we talked about it privately, but my favorite thing about that, and again, this is the Iron Belly campaign that we play every Sunday that Jesse DMs. My favorite thing about that is generally when people play warlocks, the pact is made before the game starts. Mm-hmm. That's the case for Salamir. That's the case for Hey You. When people play warlocks, they're generally starting them at first level, and it's like, yeah, my no.
I crawled under the garage.
Okay. Crawl back out under. Come on, let's go. Okay, fine. Go that way. Hey. But I got to make a pact with my patron in the course of the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking love it.
Well, no joke, I was so torn on whether to do that in front of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But I did think the surprise factor of them all just floating there in the ethereal plane and having Pelden just suddenly start, burning in front of them. I mean, the looks on their faces were incredible. I ain't go... I was so happy.
It was pretty great. It was pretty great.
Oh, my vicious side definitely kicked on that one.
And now, I've had a couple of conversations with people, and now it's all out in the open. But I was curious, and I inquired to people what they thought was going on. Bridget thought I was a paladin.
Mm-hmm.
What did Roberto think? He thought I'd gone cleric or something like that. Anyway, it was entertaining getting people to try and guess what I had, because everybody knew I'd multi-classed, obviously, but then they were like, but what into? And some people, one person thought this was just like a fucked up part of monk. Wow.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, by the way, monks also get this. And they're like, sure, why not? At this point, I could believe anything.
This monk went Super Saiyan. Okay, sure. I've seen weirder things from Pelden, to be honest. Okay. All right. Has that first coat kind of dried on the base a little bit?
I think so.
All right. So now you want to grab a dry brush.
Okay.
Her. And dry brush it with some, rinse that one off if we're pretty much wrapped with it. Oh, yeah, you're going to do the edge. But anyway, yeah, it's fine. Clean it and stick it aside for now. So you're going to want to dry brush that pretty heavily.
This one right here?
Mm-hmm. And it's going to look like a very sharp contrast, but the wash afterwards is going to do a lot to smooth it all out.
Shit.
What happened?
Got a little bit on the boot.
Oh, that's a pretty wet dry brush there, bro.
Oh, well, this is my first time doing this.
That's
so
okay.
The bristles are also quite stiff.
Yeah, that's what you want on a good dry brush.
Really?
Yeah. So, here, if I can see that real fast. Let's see. So, I'll do it on the corner of the base, so you'll just paint it over later.
Okay.
But just so you get the idea, you really want it to be almost undetectable that you still have paint, and like you can even rub it on your skin, and just that faintest hint right there.
Okay.
And then when you do that over the edges, it'll produce that kind of effect.
Oh, okay. Cool. Like a dusting.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Very light dusting just on the edges. And then we'll probably... Do you want to paint the edge before we wrap up?
Sure, I'll do that real quick. And call hit. I do have to go get a little more college work done.
College work?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, are you literally doing college courses?
Yes.
Jesse, how do you function? You do so fucking much.
Well, I mean, I feel like you've got to be in a similar boat.
Yeah, but like, I get it when it's me.
I want to do a lot in life, and sometimes that means spending very little time dinking around. So.
This fucking guy, he doesn't even make sense to me, I'll tell you.
It's I mean, you know, it's just it feels good to do things, and frankly it's fun to be back to college. So I'm quite happy actually getting to learn stuff again and get my feet wet back in academia. But no, I generally like to stay busy, and I'm very happy with the way that I've been rewarded by my efforts. So
that's awesome, dude.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, likewise, seems like you're always keeping yourself busy too. So, you know.
Oh, it's been hard this year, though.
Yep.
It's been hard this year.
High functioning adulthood's a hell of a thing.
Yeah, I had to write off large portions of today and yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean yesterday with the piano. I got a piano.
Oh yeah. Big stuff. Yeah, that sounded like it was a whole thing.
Really was. And then today, I just couldn't stand living in a house with no air conditioning anymore, so I just installed an air conditioner, which involved 3 trips to Lowe's.
There you go. Yep.
And,
been in and out of Lowe's a lot lately. I'm getting the feel for that place.
Yep. But, you know, it is nice that, like, every time I go, I get something, I get at least one more thing that I'll never have to go back for. Like today I got a vice pliers, you know, like clamping pliers.
There you go.
Never owned those in my life, and now they're just gonna make so many things that much easier.
I think that's one of the it's one of those indicators you've grown up, is when you start like going to Lowe's and being like, ooh, toys. All right, so I was about to paint the rim, and then I'm like, we got to wash this first, right?
Oh, right. You know, since you're not going to really want to get the wash over the edges, maybe paint the edge first, then wash the top. Would be a good course, a good sequence, because then you can just paint the edge and then wash it and then be done.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you want to go with the darker purple, or are you going to go with that guy?
I'm gonna go for a slightly more vivid purple.
Excellent.
Because I do quite like that mentality.
Sweetness. Yeah, get that around the edge. I'll tell you
So,
what.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
I was gonna ask how your latest. You still working on another book there, or you just got one out? So I don't know if you're taking a break right now, or.
No, so I did finish writing one recently, but I didn't actually release it recently. That is sitting with some advanced readers, and right now I'm working on some background extras and stuff to release to readers, like historical essays about hundreds of years before in the world and everything like that.
Right.
Which is something that I do.
Your Cimmerillion, as it were, a little bit.
Exactly. On the 3 book collections, I always release a few documents of that stuff, and so I'm preparing the next collection right now. So I've been all caught up in that. Oh God, I have so many of these little guys. I forgot about that. That's okay. But yeah, that's been.
I mean, that's always fun too, though. Backstory work is just a joy.
It is.
Lore is my favorite part about any kind of writing enterprise, to be honest.
For me, it's much more about I think up not even just big twists, but big moments.
Sure.
And for me, it's all about constructing big moments where people are like, "Oh shit!" And maybe it's a twist, or maybe it's just them realizing that 2 characters are about to have a confrontation, or something like that. To be honest, a lot of the time it's twists, but
Twists are fun, though. Come on now.
Twists are so
Who doesn't
much
love a
fun.
good twist?
oh boy, I gotta tell you something. There are so many fucking twists in the Vespara campaign.
Yeah.
And y'all haven't, I don't know if you run into this, but as a dungeon master, so often I feel like I'm being way too obvious. And then there are things that, nobody twigs on at all, even slightly.
Oh my god, dude. No joke. The liminal bog.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you guys have gotten far enough in now that you're aware that it's an important thing and the Night Lurk is there. But there were so many hints for that so early on.
Really?
So many, yeah. And, none of y'all got it. And I'm like, okay.
I guess I gotta throw the liminal bog right in their fucking faces.
They're going back to the Aboleth. All right, here we go. I'm like, okay.
Can you tell me and anybody watching what some hints were?
For instance, all of the dreams of the people as they were about to be attacked, being in this swamp, by the Night Lurk, right?
Okay.
That these dreams of being in a swamp, with a lantern moving through mangroves, right? Mm-hmm. And nobody ever asked the mages about that.
Okay.
And it kind of was and then you had actually asked to do a check on that, a religion check, I think. I was like, okay, so there's this place in children's stories that lies between waking and dreams,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just like, okay, so you've got this knowledge here. And then everyone's like, no, we're going to ask about the skulls. And I'm like, the skulls are their own thing, but the fact that nobody asked about the actual swamp scene, and tipping my hand a little bit, the mages totally would have been able to find out about that for you. And I'm just sitting here and they're like, now let's go to the Aboleth.
I mean, I'll be honest, at that point, Peldon just wanted to kill the Aboleth, which was something that
Well, that's fair.
Peldon had been wanting to do for a very long time. She was like, you know what? All this other stuff, we can probably sort that out, but I got such unfinished business with this motherfucker right here.
Yeah. Oh my god, I felt so bad. I'm like, I for the record, I planned a whole combat encounter for that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like prepared to fight you guys. But simultaneously, Aboleth not big on fighting when it can find other ways out.
Yeah, and if it had been up to Peldon, we totally would have fought. But I saw the tide turning the instant. I mean, I already had a vague feeling when we started heading there, and everybody was like, "Well, I mean, if we can make a deal," and I'm like, "Guys, you don't make deals. You don't do it. That's not." But they were all pretty adamant about it, and I was like, "Okay." And then as soon as we got there, and people were like, "Well, what can you give us if we don't kill you?" And I was like, "Well, all right, fine." But then I had to reconcile a way that like it could be okay, and that's where I came up with the 1 year deadline.
Yeah, which totally was like perfect. I like it. Because I ain't gonna lie, I was really hoping y'all would stay for the lore. But I was like, I will let you choose to have combat or lore this day. You may not have both. So you as the players, which do you prefer?
I am curious what would have happened if somebody had tried to attack after making the deal.
I mean, it was an illusion, so...
No, I mean like, okay, thanks for all the info. Now let's go into the cave and kill the motherfucker.
I would have mandated you couldn't do that.
Oh, like physically been unable to?
Well, no, I would have mandated that if you had been deceptive, you literally couldn't have lied. Your characters had to agree to that.
Oh.
Like, at a baseline level, right?
Got it.
So, if you had said, all right, cool, thanks, I'm gonna kill you now, I, as a DM, would have said, no, your character...
We clarified that, like, yeah. You couldn't have lied about this. Gotcha.
Your character had to be absolutely honest, or else the Aboleth wasn't giving you shit. So you couldn't double dip.
Yeah.
And granted, I'd say that would take a little player agency, but also like it.
Well, it becomes that thing that I've talked to you about before, where it's like I don't believe that it's fun for people at the table to deceive each other. I believe it's fun for characters to deceive each other, but it's like, in order for the game to work, there has to be a certain level of like, okay, but like, what are you doing? And I don't think that the DM should ever be like, okay, what are you doing? And a player should be like, I don't want to tell you. And it's like, no, tell me. The monster might not know, or like maybe that, you know, but like, I don't think that that's fun where it's like,
well, that especially if the monster literally can lie detect.
right.
It's like, no, you physically cannot lie about this. It can read lies. It can smell them. And granted, like, there's something to be said for like, you know, like, I actually quite enjoy when, like, for instance, a player decides to negotiate. You know, a character likes to negotiate. Like, Zedon's really interesting about that. You know, he really likes to make deals, and he likes to try and change the battlefield to his advantage, which is entirely legitimate as a rogue, especially as a mastermind rogue. You know,
Right. Well, he's a scout, isn't he?
I thought he was like a master. Maybe he's a scout.
He's a scout.
I think you're right. Yeah. But like, I don't mind that. I don't even mind getting fooled. Like, I've had a few times where I've been like, yeah, this is I didn't really see where you were going with this, and you just got me. Nailed it. Good job. You earned this this random advantage that this netted you. Yeah, there's Salamir. That's how I want him to look, right there.
Hey, it's the boy. Let me finish this room real quick.
And I always kind of knew Salamir wasn't going to get super colorful, but you know. I like some of the subtle details with the purple on him.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, overall, that's like, I don't mind having players mess with me, but with something like the Aboleth, that's a special circumstance, you know. And I would have had to just kind of say, no, you made this agreement, and this is me as the DM literally saying you cannot do this, because if you were to do this, you would have been lying, and if you were lying, the Aboleth would have known.
Right. There we go. Look at that. Oh, such a whippy boy.
Whippy boy.
Nice. Okay, well, we'll get off stream and we'll give him a coat of varnish to make sure that stays nice and true and beautiful forever.
Actually, I might give him a little extra touch up on the beak here, because I think that's not exactly a corvid beak. A little more.
Oh, the sort of like upturned slightly. Hey, it's a Roberto. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, that's better.
Got it?
That is a little bit better.
All right, well, now I've started my run, so I got to finish this one, and then we will wrap up. I got to tell you, there's just something about... I say this every week, and I will probably continue to say it every week, but, like, if it's just me, it's very hard to get in here and work on all of the projects that I've started or that are in various stages of completion. Mm-hmm. And so I have just really loved Crafternoon for, like, you know, look how much more terrain we have, and look how many more minis we have, and
Give you some legitimate kind of, that's what I'm looking for here, like motivation,
Exactly.
structure to the whole thing.
and you know, wrapping up all the stuff that is already here and done and all that sort of stuff. Oh yeah, we'll get in for that. Close up again. Then it's just all going to be stuff for the stream. There he is.
It's a little more corvid looking.
Whippy boy.
Whippy boy!
Oh, yes. Oh, man, Crystal's going to freak. I love it. I love it so much. Awesome. Well, that is going to be it for us this extremely hot July evening. Thank you, everybody who came and hung out with us. Angus, Lydia, Roberto, somebody else was
Megan.
there. My wife.
My wife.
My wife.
Your wife.
My wife.
That's
you
weird.
guys rock.
Shouldn't say that again.
Your wife works. That's okay.
That's okay?
Yeah, your
That's
wife
good.
is fine.
I don't know, in that inflection just feels so strange.
Also, I mean, anybody saying my wife when I say my wife, it's like,
Right.
I know what you're doing.
Look me in the eyes. Look me in the eyes. Your wife.
Yeah,
You're good. You're good with that.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, fair
That's
enough.
okay.
You're very secure in yourself. That's good. That's a good thing.
Oh, yes. No, yeah, that aspect of things is totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, everybody. We will be back next Tuesday with, I believe it's supposed to be Lucas, which is exciting.
Oh, yeah.
If Lucas is not confirmed, then I'm going to try and wrangle Nolan in here.
Yeah.
Apparently, he can't paint his campaign mini on stream. Apparently.
Ooh, that's right. I know why that is.
I don't know why that is, but I'm very curious. But he can come paint some other stuff. He can come paint...
boy. Yeah.
He can paint...
Nope, you're, Roberto, you're gonna get front row seat to why that is.
Yeah. He's got to be some crazy something. Like, is he playing a fucking Minotaur or something? Like...
I'm not telling you shit.
Okay.
I am keeping... I have been DMing long enough. I now have a poker face.
All right.
and I'm holding it.
I'm so fucking excited. I'm so fucking excited. Thank you, everybody, for coming and hanging out. We'll be back next Tuesday with another Crafternoon stream, and the Sunday after that, theoretically, we're not gonna say for sure yet, but theoretically, the Sunday after that, the first Game 0 of the Anor campaign. We will catch you next time. Bye.